Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you are joining us today. And if you are listening to this in iTunes, Podomatic, you can come to dbcoach.podomatic.com to listen to these shows. And also, there's an archive of shows going back about 7 years on blogtalkradio.com/Coach Deb, and you can listen there also online or share the shows on social media. So there's different ways that you can find out more about the entrepreneurs who've stopped by. Also, the blog Women Entrepreneur Secrets.blogspot.com has links and articles of interest to women entrepreneurs, and also bios of the show's guests. So if you have anything of interest you'd like to share there, so definitely reach out and, send you information and guidelines about posting on the blog. And if you go there, you will see a form that you can fill out to send a query. So everything's there for you, lots of information. Also, my site, DeborahABailey.com, you can find out more about me and more about my books and a couple other blogs that I have that I managed to keep up with, and you can go there and find out everything there in one site. So I hope that you'll stop by there as well. So we're going to get started today. My guest, Carol Soares, and her topic is going to be Magnificent Mompreneur Mind, the #1 ingredient for a spectacular life and thriving business. So I know that it's going to be a very good topic for a lot of you out there listening, and I'm sure you don't necessarily have to be a mom yet, a mom to be, or just want to learn from an entrepreneur who can really share with you how to get your business out there and get it going, because I think that's something we can all learn from. So Carol, through her work, she motivates people to fortify their minds while moving beyond any kind of expectations and limitations that often shape experiences in the course of one's life. She thinks that prosperity starts with a state of mind, and that inner wealth is often the foundation for all other possible forms of wealth. And she's written 2 books. Her new book, Purposeful Practice, How to Create and Grow Your Purpose-Driven Practice, purposefulpractice.com, guides helping professionals to create a practice that allows them to realize their vision, serve more, and enjoy the income that they deserve. She encourages practitioners to develop their minds, change perspectives, and apply vital strategies that will make their purpose clear, leverage time, support lifestyles, and lead to greater success. So welcome, Carol. I'm really glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. It's my pleasure to be here. It's a great show that you have.
Well, thank you. I, really enjoy talking to all these entrepreneurs, yourself included, of course, because I've always learned so much. And, I think that's a wonderful thing. There's always more to learn. You listen to other people's journeys, and, you find that you're not alone, things you've been through, and challenges, and even, the good, the bad. It's all an experience that everyone can share in, so I always am lifted up when I am, able to get a chance to speak with other entrepreneurs. But, why don't you share with us a little bit before we, talk more about the topic, what was your journey to entrepreneurship?
My journey, journey is a great way to describe it. It's been an evolution. It really has been. When I look back at, I'm actually trained as a social worker for about 19 years, and I still have, I say, one toe in the social work world. I still work with women who've experienced abuse. All of the events that I have online, I raise awareness around women abuse and human trafficking. But I learned probably about 15 years ago now that there was something else stirring inside of me, and it wasn't something that was familiar to friends, to family, other helping professionals. I just had this desire to use the things that I was most passionate about to reach more people. I knew that I could work one-on-one, with an individual. I could work in groups, but I thought, imagine if I put what was in my mind into a book, or if I had workshops, or if I was reaching people in other ways. There wasn't really much of the internet there, but I just had a big vision for doing more, reaching more. And so my first business was born about 15 years ago, and I started a practice, and along with the practice, it wasn't a traditional practice. It was, I had written workbooks and prepared different, supportive products and things that went alongside with it. It wasn't the traditional model. And that sort of evolved into different things as well. I also had a very strong desire to share wellness and natural products and resources. So I started doing, baskets that were inspirational based, and I combined that with what I was doing as well. And then there was a couple of times along the way that I actually went back into the social work field, even full time, and then did, this stuff on the side, and then came back into my business again. And I had to really embrace the fact that there are parts of us, I think, as many entrepreneurs would say, that come out in the business that we're authentically meant to be in. And that changes over time based on who we are and who we're willing to become. And so I knew that I loved the wellness, the personal growth piece, the human service piece, but I also loved business, and I was very passionate about learning more about, how to get your business out in an authentic way, how to reach more visibility, all those things. I was reading and learning just as much about that as I was about the personal growth. So I was happy to be able to put it together. And what I was also exploring, probably around 2008, 2009, was around neuroscience, neuropsychology, and the importance of the brain and the mind in what we do, how we experience our life. Started to find that with my clients in therapy, using those tools, they were able to experience things differently. Things shifted for them on a way that was different than just talk therapy. And then I started to also find that even with my coaching clients, I always talked about mindset, but on a deeper level, looking at the brain, the mind, how we can, impact the change of that in so many different ways, not just what we're thinking, but what we're eating, moving, how we're sleeping, our level of stress, our relationships, spiritual, all those things affect our brain, it affects our mind, and it really has been a wonderful experience. I've seen people just, grow in their ability just to not only enjoy life, but all other parts of their life just started to take off. The relationships were better when they felt better. Business, was better when they were clear. I am right now, and I'm feeling really good about this is where I'm meant to serve best. It comes from the things that I'm most passionate about, the things that I believe most in, and the things that I really believe are the foundation for just fulfillment, happiness in life, and success in business.
Well, that's pretty fantastic. That what you shared here, because people, I think, tend to put everything into a compartment. If they're busy working or whatever, they're seeing that as separate than taking care of themselves or getting sleep or all the different things that one should do to be a healthy person, healthy functioning person. So I think it's interesting that you're saying that all these parts, go together. It's not just one separate piece that you focus on. That's so important to highlight. So when you're saying magnificent mompreneur mind, why don't you give us a little bit more detail on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So many times we hear in the media that the way that women sometimes the biological brain is not hugely different than men, but we are wired in a small way differently, and quite often it's used in a negative way. She's just too emotional, she's just too focused on relationships, she can't be serious about a business, she can't be committed, right? All of those things that are considered to be masculine. So I really encourage women to embrace the magnificence of what makes us unique, which is that we are wired even so slightly differently, and even though we can sort of impact the brain in different ways, but that we do have a uniqueness about us, and that our minds are there to really help us to enjoy life and to be ourselves fully. And we don't necessarily pay any attention to it unless there's something that's wrong. There's a tumor, or there's something, you're having chronic headaches, but we don't really spend the amount of time that we do until there's a problem. But I really think that there is a magnificence of just the female mind and the parts of us that are just so wonderful in all our variations that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true, though. People don't really pay attention to a lot of things until there's something wrong. Then suddenly it's like, oh, now I'm going to pay attention to my well-being, or to a relationship issue. Anything, I guess, that starts to go wrong, and now I'm going to give it the attention that I wasn't giving it the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times that is what we end up doing, unfortunately. But for the mompreneur who may feel that she's overwhelmed, or she has so many things she's supposed to be doing and keeping running, how can she really, get herself lined up so that she's practicing the self-care, and then she's, doing what she's doing with the family, and then, the business can be a whole other
exactly. Yeah. And trust me, there's a lot of resistance I hear from women when I talk about that being the foundation for everything else, because, how do I find time for myself when, as you said, my business needs me, and my family needs me, and countless other areas of my life need me as well. But I usually come from the perspective of, how much more are you able to be as a partner, as a friend, as a mother, as an aunt, all of those different roles when you are at your best. How much more effective are you in your business when you have clarity, you have energy, you're not in that constant overwhelmed, confused state, because that comes out in what you do.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would usually start with, what are the small areas that you can just begin with? Where are those times that I think we all think that there's just no time, but it's really how we use our time and how we prioritize our time. And, and sometimes that's the mindset shift initially, how does this also benefit the other areas of my life that's important to me? But also, how is this something that I can believe in for myself? I make myself a priority and make myself an important person. I have value, and I deserve to feel clear and energized and not overwhelmed. And so women have a lot more difficulties. Men also have problems with depression and other mental health issues, but we have a higher incidence. So many of us are walking around just in that state and not paying attention to it. So it's really about believing first for yourself that you deserve it. And then secondly, maybe if it's possible, enlisting the support of the people that are closest to you. So if there's a partner, explaining to them that this is something that you think is going to be beneficial and is important to you. And the people that care about us will jump on board, will want that for us as well. And so they're willing to say, I can take the kids for a couple of hours on a Saturday so that you can go to the gym, you can have a nap, you can, treat yourself to something that matters most to you. Or maybe it's just uninterrupted time in your business. So just carving out that time, enlisting support, believing that you have value and that it's worth spending that time on yourself and prioritizing, finding a way to maybe chunk your activities so that you have a little bit more space for self-care or things that, really fuel you and energize you as well. So I think those are probably the first things to get started with.
And, for those, those moms who may feel a little guilty about taking time away from other responsibilities, how do you usually help them to see that it's all important?
Yeah, and it varies from a little guilt to tremendous guilt. And it comes back to, again, just believing in the fact that you're worth it. You're worth it. And you would give your child that advice to take care of themselves, to make sure that they are at their best, and you become a model. You become a model for your children when you are feeling your best, you are taking time to take care of yourself, that you are able to be successful, in whatever you do. That's modeling for your child, and that sometimes that guilt is something that is going to be there, and it's a process that, we work through, that we will maybe still go ahead and find that time and dedicate it to ourselves, feel the guilt, but still do it anyway, and then each time you do it, it gets a little bit easier, and it gets a little bit easier. And I usually will help people by having those reminders on hand, because the messages that come up are automatic, You shouldn't be taking the time to do that. You have a ton of laundry to do. Your kids need this, all of those kinds of things. So what are the things that you're going to say to yourself in that moment when those automatic thoughts come out loud and clear, and they can take you off track and back to, the normal way that you've been doing things, so that you can just, move forward with taking care of yourself and enjoying what could be different.
And it definitely sounds like something that you will have to keep reminding yourself to have a new way of thinking.
Absolutely. And it gets easier. It gets easier. The more that you do it, the easier that it gets. And so, and you sometimes have to be prepared for the people who are going to be the ones that add to that guilt. I can't believe that she's out for an evening with her girlfriends. How could she take that time away from her family? But it's a little bit different sometimes, we find, and it's changing. It's the year 2016, but things are changing, but there's still that tendency to think of the father or the men doing that more than the women. And so sometimes it may just be even someone that's close to her that says, "Oh, I'm surprised that you're out on a Tuesday evening and you have your partner at home with the kids. Aren't you concerned about what he's feeding them and getting to bed on time and all those kinds of things that she's probably very concerned about, but made a decision to put herself as a priority as well as the people in her life." Yeah.
Exactly. That's true. Do you think that women have a harder time, I guess, kind of having a vision for making a lot of money or, having prosperity? Sometimes people find that problematic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of the women that I work with have not put that as a priority, actually making a significant income. And if they have, they're very reluctant to admit it. Those who do think about it, they're reluctant to actually admit it.
I think a lot of times women, some women that I have met in different organizations and things, they may think that, well, I'm going to just do this business to make additional money, for a particular thing, as opposed to starting a business that they're going to grow over time. They may feel like they have a different viewpoint about what the business should be. Do you think that some people feel that way because they're afraid to look at it as growing something really big?
Well, I think there's fear. There's fear of sometimes actually thinking in that capacity, thinking so big, because it's not necessarily something that's supported around them, or even something that people in their circle may have even entertained as a possibility. So there's fear there. There's fear about, I think I hear a lot of women saying, I'm afraid about putting myself out there. I'm more of an introvert. I'm not used to being public and having visibility and speaking to people and all those kinds of things that we often have to do for clients to find us, to connect with us, to, you know, to network, to make relationships as well. So there's fear around that, absolutely. And then I think there's also the lack of belief that it's even possible a lot of the times. You know, I can't think about growing a business when I don't even believe it's possible that something, you know, when it comes to something that they're passionate about or interested in, how is it possible that that can be a business and that I can actually grow it to a place where it is, you know, a primary source of income and it does, you know, create prosperity for me. So, yeah, I think fears and, you know, things that we believe about what's possible holds us back a lot of the time.
Yes, that's true. That's true. You know, why don't you share with us where people can find you, and also, you know, also where they can find out more about your books.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I have written 2 books, both, and the third one is in digital form as well. So they can all be found on Amazon. So they can find that on Amazon. They can also go to my site, magnificentminded.com. I also have two podcasts, both related to the Mompreneur mind and secrets of the Magnificent Mompreneurs. So I speak to mompreneurs, and I also do one that is solo, so they can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, other places as well. But primary would be magnificentminded.com. I'm on social media, so, you know, they can find me on Facebook, Twitter, you know, all of those places as well. So, yeah, I have another summit. I just absolutely love doing summits. Some people are a little bit summit overwhelmed, but I love bringing together women for a purpose, and so I'm planning my next standout summit that'll be coming up in the next little while, and I feel the next book is emerging, so I'm not quite sure where that's going to take me, and I continue to offer my support and services through the Solar Wealth Business Academy, so yeah, lots of different places. So
yeah, fantastic. That's always, you know, different ways to reach people, and you know, just sharing information that helps people in their personal growth, I think, you know, is always important, and particularly when people are in business or want to go into business. You know, like I said before, they tend to cut off all that other growth part. When they're looking at business, they're just saying, well, business is over here, and the rest of my life is over there.
I'm sure you know, Deborah, that things come up on a personal level within our business. Absolutely. So it's very hard to separate the two. So I always encourage women to start there, strengthen that piece, and put the business pieces on top of a stronger foundation. So
exactly. Yeah, I think, you know, that's important to note, because for a lot of women who may be coming out of the workplace, they may not have been able to integrate those pieces, because, you know, I'm just saying from women I've known at the workplace who have children, have families, if they're single parents, or if they, you know, have a spouse or partner, a lot of times they're the ones taking on the extra roles and maybe picking up kids and doing different activities. And, you know, depending on where you work, the workplace may not always be encouraging.
That's right.
Of you trying to manage all of these things and you know, needing that time. And, you know, sometimes I think when women come out of that and say, well, I want my business, I want to create something of my own and maybe more flexible, you know, they may bring some of those same practices with them, where they're putting themselves last, or putting, you know, or feeling like all these parts of them are competing. You know, so when it comes to, you know, the mindset piece, you know, you were saying that they have to constantly remind themselves or just reinforce that. You know, someone listening who kind of feels like overwhelmed, you know, how would you encourage them to hang in there?
You know what? I would just say that, again, that we're unique, and in some ways we are wired, but a lot of ways we're socialized, and we have these incredible roles that we assume and love, but that we are just so much stronger and just more fulfilled when we can pay attention to what matters most, which is us at the core of all of those important things as well. So step back for a little bit, and sometimes it means before you even discover how to move forward in taking care of yourself and your mind, just step back a little bit and look at what's possible, before you move forward in carving out that 2 hours. Step back and just reflect on what's possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure a lot of people take the time
No.
to do that.
We don't. We're busy. We really are busy in this world. So just that is a huge step for many women. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because it's like, well, why you shouldn't just be doing that. You shouldn't just be sitting, or you shouldn't just be thinking or meditating or whatever it is that you're doing.
Not realizing that that's the fuel that helps you when you're writing that plan or that campaign or that piece of content. That's the fuel behind it. Yeah.
And, you were mentioning about people getting rest and all that. Do you feel that proper nutrition also plays a large role?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Makes a huge difference. It's the things that are in our foods and not in our foods, and our ability to make sure that we have some things that are essential for the brain and our body overall. The essential fatty acids, vitamin C's, the greens, the vegetables, a lot of things that just fuel our energy. They strengthen our brain, and they help us to just be more clear and more energized. So food is a huge part of it as well. And even if it's not a complete overhaul, because that itself can be overwhelming and daunting, but just, a couple of things that throughout the day are giving you more energy, that are, nurturing your mind and giving you the strength to just keep thinking. Otherwise, it's so much more difficult when the brain doesn't have that fuel to keep going. Right. It's struggling, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I think that, a lot of times people are on the go and they're rushing and they're not, eating, or they think, oh, well, I don't have time.
Yeah. It's true. And, and myself included, that I have to make sure that I make an effort to, each time during the day that what I'm putting in is, I'm mindful of what I'm putting in my body. And it's not always the case. That doesn't mean that I'm not having my cheesecake that I enjoy, or, those kinds of things, but that most of what I'm doing is fueling my body and my energy so that I can be the mom and be president of my business and, go here and there. So, yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. Do you also meditate or do some kind of thing like that when you need to unwind?
I do. I use meditation. I absolutely love using visualization, separate from or within meditation. And so I think those are simple ways to get started in just being quiet and still, because we don't realize there's a lot of chatter that goes on, good, bad, and other, that happens throughout the course of our day. And most of it is unconscious chatter. And so we can just be still. Again, just like the food, it's just replenishing, restoring, revitalizing, our capacity. So really important to do those things. And it may not be meditation for you. You might not call it meditation, but just being in that reflection time or a quiet time. That's not in front of the TV or when you just finally crash at the end of the night, right?
Exactly. Sometimes that's what happens. So.
That's the only quiet time we get is, right, when we just put our head down at the end of the night.
Yeah, and then you end up falling asleep sometimes before you're just so exhausted. So that I think a lot of people end up doing that and just having good intentions to do some other positive things, but then they end up just kind of running all day long.
So I encourage women to find times, to pencil in the time in their schedule, just as they would their child's doctor's appointment or, something else that they're a business meeting, pencil in those times and try to commit to it. It doesn't even have to be long periods of time. It might just be 10 minutes, in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, or, if you can do longer than that or work yourself up to that, that's great. But that's 10 minutes that you probably didn't have in your day, before. So start small, make it manageable, because I think just like diets, people, try with these really restrictive things, these plans, and it's too hard to maintain, and it's too much of an adjustment. So they end up just saying, forget it, it's too much work, why bother? This is too hard. Start small. Start where you are, and just commit to building from there.
That's true. It's often if people are just trying to dive in and do everything at once and make this big splash, and then it's overwhelming because you really, are trying to do so much all at one time. It's opposed to just adding in some better practices to your life as you go on. So, that's something I think people can definitely learn from, take advantage of, than all or nothing, which, really isn't very positive. We're coming to the end of the program. Are there any, thoughts that we haven't touched on that you'd like to, leave the listeners with? I
don't think there's anything over and above what I've said already, but I would just really emphasize for people to do that self-discovery piece first and commit to yourself first, and all of that, is going to go so far into the life that you enjoy and the business that you have. And of course, my passion is to make sure that starts with the health of your mind. So what you're eating, how you're thinking, how you're coping, sleeping, all of those kinds of things. So make yourself a priority. And, one of my favorite mantras is to develop fully, live deeply, and succeed authentically. So I want that for every person that's listening in.
That's really a nice way to tie it up, I think.
Thanks.
That's definitely a nice way to do that, and emphasizes everything that we've been discussing throughout the show. So I really want to thank you very much for sharing that, Carol. I'm sure that the listeners will come away with a lot to think about and implement. And they have your website. Could you share your website one more time?
Sure. That's magnificentminded.com.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, same here. I really, enjoy the conversations and definitely like to hear what different entrepreneurs are saying and how they're, doing what they do. And, there's always so much, as I, mentioned before, we started that I learn and so I'm learning right along with the listeners. That's what I really enjoy about this. So I want to thank you again for joining me. It's really been a good conversation.
Oh, you're welcome.
And so everyone, I'm sure that you have enjoyed this show. Please make sure you share it with your friends. Share it on social media. Once again, you can come to dbcoach.podomatic.com. And the show is also on iTunes. So you go to the website, the blog for the show, womenentrepreneurssecrets.blogspot.com. You can also see links for iTunes, how to subscribe there, and also links for if you don't have an iPhone or, you want to subscribe to the various podcasts there's a link there for you to do that as well through Android if you listen on your mobile device. So we've got you covered. So please stop by there and check out all the articles as well. So once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.